here we go.
Yes, people. What's going on? Today's show is going to be a panel show, and we're going to be discussing the expectations for next season. Big money spent this transfer window. So is it a trophy or a bust for Arsenal? In addition to that, have we bridged that gap of quality that we need to go on to do what we need to do to go win the league, to go on to catch up to Manchester City? These are some of the questions we're going to be answering ourselves. And of course, yourselves in the comment section are also going to be answered if you're watching live or the playback. And make sure you do hit that like button, as we're trying to get every stream past at least 150 likes. But first, let's get the show started. The ever so wonderful Curran is back with us. Obviously, we were on the show yesterday with Hussam. He's back on today. He got his boy Declan Rice. How you doing, bro? You feeling good?
I am feeling wonderful. It's been good. I think this transfer window has been smooth so quickly, and everything's happening. It's good to see us go out aggressively at the beginning of the window instead of having to get through. But we'll get through it all. Get the rest of the guys out and let's get this thing started.
There you go. Tyreek, you wearing a Raptors hat just because I'm here, or what's going on?
Of course, man. I gotta know where I'm at. Gotta represent. But I appreciate you for inviting me on, Egal. It has been a while. And as Kieran said there, it's just all positivity in and around the club, on and off the pitch, contracts being signed, keeping our best academy players, and then attacking the transfer market with so much aggression. And thinking about it, we're actually making decent money on sales too. But I'm sure we'll get into it.
There you go. And finally, my arch nemesis, we got my guy Brendan in the building. What's good?
I'm good, bro. I have to basically reiterate what both the lads have just said. It's an unprecedented time being an Arsenal fan. We never normally see Arsenal move this quickly in the transfer market and get deals done, big deals as well. So yeah, it's great feeling being an Arsenal fan at the moment.
Fair enough. So, of course, there's a lot of different ways where we can go about this, but I kind of feel like we should just have an open discussion, kind of a little bit of a debate, challenge each other's points, and we kind of see where things head, whichever way we head on. So before we go into expectations on what we expect next season, we spent a lot of money, ladies and gentlemen. We just spent 200+ million on 3 players. When was the last time Arsenal spent that kind of money? I don't think we ever have. We've broken our transfer record. We've broken a British transfer record. We also buy Kai Havertz, who's pretty close to our transfer record in Nicolas Pepe. Let's be honest, not too far away from that also. And they're saying that they're not done. They're going to do more. But yeah, let me just add the next person also. Gully's in the building. Gully, what's going on?
Can you not hear me? Sorry, I was trying.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, I'm good. How are you, lot, man? How's everyone doing?
Chilling. So yeah, just to introduce everyone, their names are right there. You got Curran. Curran's here, right?
Yeah, you got it.
Gully, Tyreek, where is he? Right there.
There you go.
Mine is inverted. Anyone who's wondering why I'm doing this, it's inverted for me. But anyway, let's get this show started. So what we're gonna do is it's gonna kind of be open discussion. First things first, just lay it out there, guys. Do you agree with the premise of the show that is trophy or bust for Arsenal next season? And when I say trophy or bust, we have to at least leave with something. Everyone agrees, right?
Yeah,
100%.
Okay, so now does everyone want to kind of go into what did they expect going into this transfer window, and has it met your expectations, or do you still think there's more to do to fulfill your expectations for this transfer window? Before we go any further and kind of dissect what you think about each signing. Like, I think I've gone through it a lot myself, so I'll start with Gully, and then we'll work our way across. What are you saying, Gully?
In terms of has he like met my expectations of what I wanted in this transfer window?
Signings, how quick they've been, anything regarding.
To be fair, I didn't expect a Timber signing. That's the first. I didn't think we would get another right back or a centre back in terms of someone of that quality. I thought we'd get a backup. I didn't think we'd get someone who is starting quality, but it's good that we got him. The Rice thing, like in January, from then onwards, I knew if we didn't get someone either of Caicedo or Rice's level, for me, this transfer window would not have been good. I would not have given it anything above a 6 out of 10, no matter who we signed. because those two were set in stone to be one of the main ones that we signed in order to boost the midfield that we have this season. But for me, I would say it hasn't surprised me, but the business we've got done is good. The price we spent on Rice, that's the big surprise. That's the only big surprise in my opinion, because I did not think we'd spend 100 million, but I'm happy we did.
Fair enough. What you saying, Tyreek?
Yeah, for me, at the moment in time, it has exceeded our expectations. Having said that, there is more that still needs to be done. It does look like the club are now going to be focusing on sales, but I still do think we need two more incomings. And I understand that is going to now be generated through those sales. But for Arsenal to wrap up their record fee, you usually see these big transfers, right? Get signed towards the end, because when there's so many teams that are involved and the club is being very stubborn in their negotiations, it's something that usually is a drawn out process. But for Arsenal now to get their main man in, ready for pre-season, ready to get their priorities in Rice, Havertz, and a Yuri and Timber, the ones who are going to make the biggest impact on this first team, I believe, they're the ones who we need to see, and how they're going to set us up for next season. Because at the end of the day, do you remember in pre-season last year, that was the time where a lot of Arsenal fans started believing, and where we saw the big, tremendous growth from the season prior.
Fair enough. Brendan, how you doing? Talk to me. You kind of mentioned some of the signings. What do you think we're missing to take us over the hump now?
Yeah, so just to kind of add to Tyreek's point there, like this is something that we've seen throughout the entire tenure of Mikel Arteta and Edu as our technical director, getting in signings early, getting them integrated into the squad, ready to go in pre-season. We see that last season, and it put Arsenal in good stead. It's nice to see that we're not trying to sign players like when the season's already kicked off, like we have seen in previous years under Arsene Wenger and even Unai Emery, for example. We definitely still need more. There's no question about that. Granit Xhaka has left today, and that's why I kind of feel like Declan Rice was the main signing ahead of Caicedo, because in Granit Xhaka you're losing the leadership qualities. You're going to get that back from Declan Rice. So that's kind of one in, one out. But we definitely need another midfielder, I feel. And I also feel like we need a striker, boys. I'm not going to lie. When you look at Jesus, I like Jesus, but he's never going to be that guy to score you 20 goals a season. I just feel like we need somebody who can come off the bench, offer us something a little bit different. Now, I'm going to be very interested and intrigued to see just whether Arsenal give Balogun an opportunity in pre-season. Maybe he could be that guy. He's got the right attributes for it. He scores lots of different types of goals. We've seen him score in the French league. Could he be that guy who kind of offers us something a little bit different to a Jesus or a Trossard in these tight games where you're kind of struggling to break teams down, teams like a Newcastle, for example. But yeah, I definitely feel we need another striker and another midfielder. And I think if we can do that and we can get them two players in, I think, it will set us in some good stead for competing in all competitions this season, which is the expectation for me. We have to compete in all competitions.
Fair enough. What about yourself, Curran? How you feeling? How you feeling about the transfer window so far? And of course, you are ecstatic, but more, what's next for you? What do you think we do next besides just player sales?
I mean, that is, you just said it in the question. The next is player sales. It's quite clear that that's going to be the next period of this window is player sales, because when you've spent £200 million and you want to attack the market, continue, as Fabrizio always says, attack the market. Again, you do need to raise some funds to kind of fuel those final sales, and opportunities will pop up. Like players, I know people don't like Fabio Vieira that much, but he's an example of an opportunity that rises later in the market, because we bought him, I think, around now last year, around July-ish, around that time. So my point is, is that when you have opportunities start to pop up, you're going to need to get some funds in to get those chase those opportunities. As for what we've done so far, I disagree that we weren't going to get a right back, centre back. We kind of needed to, because of what happened in the end of last season. There was always going to be an addition defensively. I was a big advocate for Frisneda. I thought that would have been a great signing. I think he's going to Barcelona now. There've been chat about some other guys. Livermore has been brought up. These kind of guys, as well as now we've had Urian Timber, who's come in, yet to be announced, but will be announced probably tomorrow. He's someone that can fit in at right back and centre back, and what that does is it allows you to have that flexibility with Ben White as well. So he can come into centre back, he can play right back, and have Timber come in and be, whichever one Mikel prefers. You can also play at 3 at the back. Gives us a lot of flexibility.
More importantly, no Rob Holding.
No Rob Holding, of course. But the main thing is as for what we should do to finish the window, I agree that we need a centre midfielder. I think that you can't go into a season relying on a midfield 3 of Rice, Odegaard, and Kai Havertz. You have to have another option, something with a bit more steel. That you need to have that some kind of another different option, and maybe you can even move to a 4-man midfield as well. There have been talks. I think Alex Crook of Talksport put out saying that White could be as a defensive midfielder from centre back like John Stones is. I think that's another option we can do. But as for the striker talk, we had it out yesterday on Hassam's channel. I think that with Trossard, with the profiles that we have, with Reece extending, I think the major swoop for striker will come next season. I think we do need a striker at some point, but I think the striker market this season is a bit clogged with kind of like that mid to upper mid tier of talent, whereas next year you're going to have the likes of an Osimhen come up. These kind of guys, like the top tier talents, I think is going to be more available next year, and I would rather get that talent when it's on the market. I mean, you never know. I mean, people laugh, and I don't think we'll get Mbappe. Let me be clear. But the point is the top tier talent is kind of waiting for that 2024 window. Even Benjamin Sesko is another example of someone who has just moved to Leipzig, and there's always been talk about him not staying there. Evan Ferguson as well. I think
that's the one.
Another one as well. That if Højlund goes to Man United, that's kind of that route kind of cut off to him. Would Chelsea come in? Who knows? But the point is that that's another striker that's going to be available who has a very, very high ceiling. So I personally would go for the top talent and secure our midfield and our defense this summer.
And just want to add quickly on that is that's why we need to be. I agree with you that we need to wait, because whoever comes into this team now has to be ready to make an impact straight away. That's the part in the development that we are at. We're not here like Fabio Vieira. It's a big season for him. I know you mentioned him because he's got to now make an impact. We can't have signings that did what they did last.
I don't want it to become Lukonga. You know what I mean? I want him to have like a season where he actually prospers, because there is definitely something there. The final ball, the ability to actually create, and he's a good ball striker as well. I know that Brandon's not a fan, but the fact is there's definitely potential there. He does need to bulk up. That is true. He needs to be more secure in his duels. That's 100% true. But there is something there. There's something that we can work with at least. And I think that he has to, as Tariq mentioned, you have to produce something now. We don't want Sambi, another type of Sambi, because Sambi has the potential, but he doesn't have the application. I think mentally to really be someone that could be useful for us.
Let's talk about something though. With the striker situation, everyone loves talking about the striker situation. Let's talk about a striker we have in house, Balogun. Have you guys seen what he posted today? Has everyone seen it?
Yeah, I've seen it, and honestly, like it is what he's always been like this. He's always been a bit like, I'm the man. You need to give. I am the guy, and he.
I like that though.
I know. Some people do like that. That's fine.
If you think about it, right? If you think about it, all the best strikers in world football have that little bit of arrogance about.
Yeah.
And Balogun has obviously got that aura, that arrogance. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I like honestly, I don't mind it either. I 100% don't mind it. But the thing is, what we have to realize is that I think he's leaving personally. I know a lot of people would like him to stay, but I think if we're going for a second midfielder of the top quality, a Caicedo, Tchouameni, Camavinga, whoever you want, those top tier midfielders, you're going to need to raise some funds. And he is someone that you can get 45, 50 million pounds for. So that is something that is up for debate, I think.
I can't believe he posted this on his story.
Who cares, man?
Why
Seriously.
are you surprised that he posted it though? I think a lot of players do this, especially in today's market.
I mean, Mudryk did it.
We see Mudryk last season.
Yeah.
Everybody was gassed about that. I don't see an issue with it personally.
No, it is what players do. I think
because he knows he's not going to get a starting spot. So what he's trying to do is get teams to more or less come for him by putting this out there.
Yeah, 100%. But the thing is, we have to stop looking at this in terms of you're a part of our club. This is modern football now. Footballers want to have, they want to make they will push for their moves. They're not just going to sit there and wait. And
especially if you're going to be a backup, and he knows he's going to be a backup.
He's going to be a backup, yeah. And the thing is, when you're looking at a striker that is at his peak value in terms of at League One, very close to the top scorer in League One, definitely going to have lots of clubs come in. You look at the likes of RB Leipzig, who have just made a lot of money off Szoboszlai, and they've made a lot of money off who else they made money off of? And they're going to make money off Guardiola as well. So they're going to have a lot of money. AC Milan have obviously sold Tonali as well. They'll have money. And both clubs have shown previous interest in the players. So there is money there to spend for a Balogun in Europe. And because this is the thing, when you look at the European market, they're not exactly the richest clubs, and they try to undercut a lot. But you can't undercut when you clearly have the money. It's like West Ham now. Teams are going to want their money.
Does everyone think Balogun is going to be leaving, or is, because I do agree with Curran. I think Balogun is out the door, and based on the fact that we've been hearing us shopping him around for the longest time, I'm pretty sure it's going to happen.
It's not just us shopping him; he's shopping himself around as well. I'm pretty sure, like it's quite clear that his agent and him are clearly wanting out, and it's not because they don't like the club. I think it's because they see that he's not going to start. So they're going to try and get the best for him and the club. I think a lot of people get into this tribalistic attitude of, oh well, he's the club's done poorly because of this, or the player's done poorly because of this. Clearly, it's just not the right timing for either player.
I don't think this is a decision that's been made, and all you just have to do is look at Balogun's situation previously. Do you remember when he was letting his contract run down and he was flirting and talking to multiple clubs? I remember hearing 14, 15 clubs, the likes of RB Leipzig, those who were interested in previously. But I think he's just weighing up his options, and I think really deep down what he just wants to do, he would be happy to stay at Arsenal just as long as he's getting guaranteed game time, because I'm a massive fan of Arteta, of course. You guys know that already. But what we have seen happen with the likes of Eddie, with the likes of Nelson, is you've seen them. Big contracts have been given, or a lot of talk in the media has been spoke about them. The trust that Arteta said that he had in Eddie. But look what happened towards the end of last season. He didn't get many games, and there wasn't really much proof in the pudding to what's being said. Yes, he was trusted when Gabriel Jesus was out, and he did a very good job given that situation there. But as soon as he picked up that little ankle injury, he was yet to be seen again. And this is where Balogun, he knows, he's like, right, I've got a big opportunity now. I've got a World Cup to come. You can't miss a season of development. Arsene Wenger used to say it all the time. In those years, those formative years as a player, you have to play consistently. And I think that decision hasn't been made, because I think they'll have a look at him in pre-season, have a look at his attitude in training as well. The decision might be made before a ball is kicked against Nuremberg, but they want to see how he is. What is the thing that Arteta said to him? And he said to Smith Rowe as well, I want to see you develop as a man. That's the big thing. That's what Arteta wants to see, the difference, because he knows the potential he's got in him as a player. He was the one who offered him that contract to stay when everyone was doing all the Balogun versus Eddie talk. Now that's come back. We're going to see it again. I think pre-season, the opportunity for him.
Let me ask you guys this. I don't really do this too often, but sometimes you see rivals chatting and you just think to yourself, do they have a point? I'm going to ask you guys a quick question. If we lose Granit Xhaka, as we already have, right? He's left to Leverkusen officially now, and we end up selling Thomas Partey. Do we leave ourselves in a situation where, if we do get a Lavia, that is not enough for next season? What do you guys think?
I don't think Lavia is as strong as the links were as strong as people are making it. Personally, but that's just my personal opinion. I think a lot was made out of it. We moved on quite quickly. I feel. I think Liverpool came in, and they were seemingly more keen, and then they pulled out. I think a lot of teams are looking at him as a backup option for central midfield. I think that it's not because of his quality. The quality is obviously there, but to play 15 million for a player that's not
It's
played
not
more.
the question is not really about Lavia though, Curran. The question is more about, is our midfield weaker with Rice and Kai Havertz than it was last year with Xhaka and Partey?
At this moment in time, it is. At this moment in time, it is, and which is why I keep saying central midfield has to be a priority. My point is, and this is what I was trying to say, is that I think that putting Lavia in this midfield is not really going to get the most value for your money at this moment in time, because you're paying 50 million on potential at this moment in time, and we don't have the room for that right now. We need players that are going to come in and start, especially if we're letting Thomas Partey go. So this is why I mentioned just previously the likes of, I know it's pretty fanciful for the likes of Eduardo Camavinga, Aurelien Tchouameni, Moises Caicedo, that level of talent. That's the kind of level you've got to be shopping at now, because, and this is why I kept saying about the sales are so important now, because if we can raise, I don't know, we've raised 26 million already. Say we raise 100, 120 in sales. That allows you to go and get one more marquee signing, sorry, not sale, marquee signing. And then maybe, I don't know, a prospect or something like this for whichever way you want, if you want a second signing as well.
Yeah.
Does anyone else think our midfield?
I agree with that. I agree with that analysis. Like, if you sell both Thomas Partey and Granit Xhaka, and then you've got Kai Havertz and Rice, I do feel that's a weaker combination than Granit Xhaka and Thomas Partey, because like Rice and Thomas Partey, if they're both playing in the six, like there's not much difference in quality between the two. You'd probably argue right now that Thomas Partey is better than Declan Rice, right? But the difference comes with Kai Havertz and Granit Xhaka. Kai Havertz is probably better going forward than Granit Xhaka and gets himself in better positions. But defensively, no way. No way. And Granit Xhaka isn't that great defensively, but he's a lot better than Kai Havertz. So I would say it is a weaker combination. And the only way, like if you're going to get rid of Thomas Partey, you need to replace him with top tier quality, just as Karan said. And there's only 3 players in world football that I feel that are realistic for Arsenal to go out and get, that provide the quality that, you know, you kind of wouldn't miss Thomas Partey. And that is Caicedo, Tchouameni, or Frankie de Jong. Either one of them 3. If we could sign either one of them 3, then that would be, you know, the kind of standard that we'd be looking at. But if you're going in for a Lavia or anybody else who's not there yet, then
Amadou Onana, these kinds of people.
Yeah, you're shooting yourself
exactly.
in the foot, Arsenal. You really are. So
the only name I'd add is Camavinga, and the reason I say that is because he hasn't agreed his contract yet, and with Goulet coming in for Real Madrid as well, that's now another right central midfielder for Real Madrid. Without that, because Tchouameni, as much as I love Tchouameni, he is the only lone 6 Real Madrid have. I would say he's very much unlikely to come. If you're looking at a signing from Real Madrid, it's Camavinga. I think that would be the more obvious one. And I think as a right central midfielder, if you're going to play as, for example, you play Rice as a 6, and then you have Camavinga and then Ødegaard. Ødegaard, I've always said, is a left-sided central midfielder. I don't like him on the right. I prefer him on the left. I think that his link up with Martinelli is better on the left. But we're getting into a lot of different topics. But my point is that get the quality you need, not the potential right now, because you're replacing a starter. You're not replacing a potential player. You're not replacing a Sambi Lokonga here. You're replacing Thomas Partey. So you need to replace that accordingly.
See, I keep going back and forth on this Thomas Partey thing, because originally I was like, when I was hearing the news Arsenal were looking to move Thomas Partey on, I was like, okay, I understand this one. You know, the guy's very injury prone, unreliable in the big moments. His contract's running down. He's not getting any younger. You know, I can see why.
A new contract also.
Yeah, exactly. I can see why Arsenal are looking to kind of move him on, get a bit of money in for him while you can. Because one thing that we always have as fans, and we always complain about, is not selling our players at the right time and losing out in terms of money and allowing them to run their contract down and leave for free. But now I'm looking at the quality that is out there. And as I said, there's only a handful of players that can replace Thomas Partey. If Arsenal can't go and get one of them players, keep Thomas Partey for another year. Even if that means you lose out on a bit of money, whatever it may be, you cannot elaborate for the quality that Thomas Partey gives us when he does play for our team. Do you know what I mean? And with Declan Rice now being there, you don't necessarily have to play Thomas Partey week in, week out. So, do you know what I mean? I would keep him personally right now as things stand.
What about yourself, Gully? What are you saying?
I agree with you. I said last time I came on here, I said that I don't think we sell Partey. I think he stays another year. And I think, especially in today's market, you've seen like the amount of prices people are asking for midfielders like Caicedo, the Frankie de Jongs, the Tchouamenis, whoever it might be. I just don't think, now that we've spent 100+ million on a midfielder, I don't think we go out there, spend another 80, 60, 70, wherever it might be, on another midfielder. But I do believe Partey should stay. I'm not going to lie. I think, especially with Xhaka leaving now, we can't have both of our 2 starting midfielders from last season leaving and directly replace them with one less quality in Havertz replacing Xhaka, because I don't think he's a midfielder, in my opinion. And the other being Rice.
I feel like Arsenal's trying to overhaul the whole midfield this window. But do you guys think, if we, hypothetically speaking, if we get Lavia, do you guys feel like that would weaken us? Obviously, but like,
yes.
Why would we do that?
No, we won't. And I genuinely think we won't. I think that's a backup option. Sorry, Brandon. I'll give you a second. I think it's a backup option. I genuinely do. I think that if you look at any of the central midfield profiles, and in terms of spending another 80 to 90 million on a player, as we said before, is depending on sales. I think this is our budget we've spent now, and now anything further will depend on sales. And that's why I said at the beginning, we're moving on to sales before we're attacking the market. Sorry, Brandon.
Before we go on sales, my question is: so what's next if it's not Lavia?
It can't be Lavia, in my opinion.
Yeah, it has to be a top tier quality player. It has to be. It's as simple as that.
It's very simple. Either Partey stays or you replace him with another starter. You have to. 100%. You can't take out one of your best players and then go, okay, we'll replace him with a backup and kind of rejig things. It doesn't work like that.
Especially
and if he does, I'd be
very
worried.
Well.
This is what
I'm saying. So, this is where I originally agreed with you, right? About a couple of weeks ago when I first heard that even the Lavia links. But what has Declan Rice been brought in for, in your guys' opinion?
I think he's the 6. I think he's the 6.
So he's someone that starts regularly and someone who's got tremendous durability, which is probably the biggest reason why I'm happy about the 100 million that we spent is on that part. So he's someone that's going to come in for Partey, and I presume that he's going to play and be a starter ahead of him. And then we've got Jorginho, who looks like he's staying now. Yes, and we saw Mikel Arteta towards the end of last season trust Jorginho in a big away games against Newcastle, against tough physical opposition, and use his experience to manage throughout that game. And then that's where I think you can take a risk on a Lavia. I'm not sure whether we will do it or not, but I can understand if you do it, because Lavia is someone who has shown tremendous potential. I believe we've got 2 players that are good enough to start in that position now with the Rice and Jorginho. And then Lavia, someone whose ceiling is very high. Manchester City did not want to let him go. He wanted to go to get guaranteed football, and he wanted to further develop in his career, because, they've got competitions coming up with the Euros and stuff for Belgium. And he's also, I know Lokonga is a Belgian international, so that doesn't quite, when we signed him, doesn't quite help his case. But with Romeo Lavia, he's someone that's got that profile, who's a very aggressive, and then someone who also is able to drive throughout the back. And that is what Arsenal, in terms of this transfer window, have been really focusing on. Yuri Timber, progressive carries. Declan Rice, progressive carries. Romeo Lavia, he's not afraid to do so. That is why he's attracting so much interest throughout all these clubs. And someone who's got a year of Premier League experience, and that's another box ticked for Mikel Arteta. That's what he likes. That's what he will continues to try and build on nowadays. So I can see room in that sense with what we've already got at the helm in that sixth role.
I was just gonna say what you said in the chat. Thomas Partey looks to be staying in Europe, wanting to stay in Europe, and Arsenal might prefer to sell him to Saudi Arabia because they offer the big bucks. But the reality is, what it's looking like is that he might not be so keen to go to Saudi Arabia, as those suitors would be willing to pay over what Juventus would be willing to pay. But Juventus look to be offering us only 20 million euros. Like,
that's crazy, especially after the season he had as well.
No, but that's just that's all they can afford. And this is the thing. This is why I would say it's more likely for him to go to an AC Milan, because they just sold Sandro Tonali. I think that would be more of a viable link. I think Juventus, they're going to try and do the same thing they've always done: option to buy with 15 years loan and pay it back over 15 years. It's just not. It's not what they're not serious people. They haven't been in a long time. So as for them, if he tries, if he tries to tries to get a move there, that's fine. But you have to pay the market rate, which is going to be about 35 to 40 million pounds. It's not going to be anything less than that.
The only way, if I was Arsenal negotiating this, the only way Thomas Partey goes to Juventus is if they give us Dusan Vlahovic in return. It's as simple as that.
I don't think we're going to go back in for Vlahovic, though.
No, I know, but all this talk about Thomas Partey for £20 million, are you taking you can't be taking the mick like that. Do you know what I mean? If Arsenal actually did that deal and sold Thomas Partey for 20 million, they're absolutely crazy off their heads.
Because
are you guys entertaining this conversation, Frankie de Jong?
Right. Yes. Right. So imagine this, right? Frankie de Jong, very much similar to Declan Rice, can play both the 8 and the 6. If you've got Frankie de Jong next to Declan Rice in our midfield, you can interchange the entire midfield. Do you know what I mean? And
is this realistic? We talked about Mbappe not being realistic, Tchouameni not being.
Frankie de Jong is realistic because Barcelona are in some monetary problems, and they are looking to move some players on in order to, kind of secure their finances. Whether
you think he's the only one that's untouchable in that team? Mike Puskas is gone now. They don't have a sitting midfielder anymore. Midfield holder.
Yeah, I mean, untouchable. That depends, doesn't it?
What about player sales, though? As you guys said, player sales depends on if we go and spend more money. I would assume that it's because we sold Granit Xhaka for 25 mil, sold Partey for maybe 30, sold Balogun for 50, sold Kieran Tierney. But selling all these guys, would you guys want to keep any of these fringe players around, like Kieran Tierney?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I don't think Tierney leaves. I think that boat has sailed. I think we've looked. I think there was a time when Newcastle were involved, Villa were involved as well. I don't think either of them can afford him. We've got no reason to sell. We need 2 left backs because Zinchenko.
I don't even think Arteta wants to sell him.
No, I don't. And I think that what Mikel at the end of the season, I'm going to keep saying this because it's very true. He said that he used his squad poorly. He said he could have done better in terms of using his squad more. And I think that if you look at guys like Smith Rowe, like Tierney, these guys are not scrubs at all. These guys can come in and do a job, especially for Tierney, because the thing is, it gives you a completely different dynamic at left back. You have a more advanced left back instead of having the inverted role, and to have players that can adapt to different game states, a bit more defensively sound as well. So I think that selling Tierney, I think that makes no sense to me. I think that if there's going to be a left back signing, I would say 2024, 2025, something like that.
Especially Champions League as well. He's going to be
Champions League as well,
crucial because he's going to come up against some of the best wingers in the league, in the world, and we don't have a defensive left back. Zinchenko, I don't think if he comes up against someone like Vinicius Junior or Mbappe or whatever might be on that right hand side, it's over for them. It's over for us. So Tierney, I think, is going to be very.
I mean, you can. I mean, at a stretch, you can put Tomiyasu there. We did it against Salah, for example. I mean, that is a way we can get around it. But why would you want to do that when you have someone at the club like Kieran Tierney? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Keep Kieran Tierney all day long. You've got to. You've got to. You know, we just pointed out there Zinchenko's defensive deficiencies and talking about him coming up against some of the best wingers in world football. He got cooked by Theo Walcott last season. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can't. You've got to have some sort of defensive stability there, and in certain games when you're coming up against certain threats. Like, imagine Zinchenko against Vinicius Junior. Jesus Christ!
Let me ask you a simple question. We're no longer in the Thursday competition. I don't even want to speak about it. Does that change everything in how Mikel Arteta manages this squad? And now
it has to.
And now, do we see how good some of these players are? Because is it going to be a situation where we see Reece Nelson starting on a Tuesday or Wednesday, and then we see Trossard starting on a weekend because Jesus played in the Champions League? It has to happen.
It has to.
Yeah, he has no choice. He has to use his squad now, because you cannot play like Bukayo Saka, for example. He played so much football for Arsenal last season. When it's in the Europa League and you're playing against teams that are, let's just say, at a lower level, you know, you can kind of get away with playing like your Reece Nelsons or somebody who's not quite of the level or whatever.
Yeah.
And it doesn't affect so much. Whereas it's like Bukayo Saka played so much football for Arsenal last season. He can't continue doing that. You have to rotate him a little bit.
That's not the only question, though. What else is there besides squad rotation that these guys are going to have to figure out? Because Champions League midweek, obviously there's going to have to be rotation because we're going to be playing strong teams twice. But can we sustain having guys playing 60, 70 games now?
Did you do? Why can't we?
Because some of these guys haven't done that before.
No, but there were definitely players who are. And this is when you look at those who won the treble over there, they had a spine that played a lot of those games. Rodri did not miss a game for Manchester City, playing across all those different competitions. Well, Diaz, he missed the start of the season due to injury, but he was playing consistently. There is a spine that you will have, and I do believe that Bukayo Saka is one of those players that is a part of that spine. So although I hear you, Brandon, I think we need to manage his minutes more than games. That's how we need to look at it. So let's get games wrapped up like how City do it, and then you take them off, and then yes, he'll still come on off the bench, and then he'll probably still rack up 60 to 70 games like you're saying there, Egal, but the minutes are managed better across, and then that's how Manchester City do it throughout a season. That's what we need to do now. We need to.
The thing is, you see, there's a lot of players. There's a lot of players that play about 22, 25 games in the Premier League for City. That's the sweet spot where they have 17 or 18 players. Sorry to cut you off. It's just that that's the sweet spot. Around 20, 22, 25 games, everyone chips in with that, and then that way you get through and have not everyone play the 38. I think the main, as Tyrant said, that you have to have the spine. I think Gabriel, Saliba, Ramsdale, Rice now. I still can't believe I'm saying that. Rice now, Gabriel Jesus, and Saka and Odegaard, I think, and Martinelli. I think these guys are going to be very, very mainstay. But you do also have to think about niggles, managing their minutes as well. You don't want them to go, get a grade 1 hamstring and be out for a week and then try to rush them back. So yeah.
Do you even see the Martinelli point? Sorry, I just wanted to say this quickly. I don't even think he's a part of that spine, and it's nothing to disrespect the player. I just think that Arteta will likely rotate him more. Do you remember Aston Villa away when he came and Trossard came in and those sort of things there? I think we might see those players get rotated a bit more. Not taking away his quality, because Phil Foden is a rotational player.
Saka has to go through the same thing that Haaland does at Man City. Haaland plays most games, but he doesn't play 90 minutes in those games. He gets taken off 65 minutes. 70 minutes, and you can afford to do that. But you're winning games comfortably, and we need to be able to do that next season.
We did that with Odegaard last year. I felt like there was a lot of games where Odegaard came off, but you know what happens? We now need to find a way to evolve as a team where we can trust certain individuals to see through games and win it with the bench unit, because the bench unit is strong enough now where they're starters basically. We don't have.
Just think about it, Egal, though. Forget the goalkeeper. Turner's never going to play in a Premier League game.
Yeah.
But like Emile, Tierney, Timber, Trossard,
Tomiyasu.
Nelson, Tomiyasu.
Be there as well.
like these are that's
You
six.
got a lot of defenders. Wow.
Yeah, a lot of defenders, and then you've got like the likes of obviously Vieira. You've got Eddie as well. Like
Are
these
we
are
light in midfield then?
yes, that's what I've been saying. We
Midfield's
we
the big- honestly,
we need
yeah.
another midfielder. Yes,
I'll say people just one as a backup on one main one that should be there
Mm.
as a competition for the rest of the guys. But there should also be another backup there, in my opinion, because without having
yeah. I've always I've said since if Thomas goes, that is definitely we need a midfielder. We just need
100%.
one.
Did you guys see what Jesus did?
Yes.
Do you feel like that was a team discussion that they had and it caused him to say something like that? Because usually you don't see people come out and just be like, yeah,
Which part?
Injuries cost us at the end of the season.
Oh, okay.
And it was
Not just he didn't just say injuries. He said William Saliba's injury.
Yeah, the Saliba injury specifically.
I mean, everyone saw it. You can't just dance around it. That's what happened. We were elite. He went down, and we weren't elite.
You say the fact, but that's crazy to come out and say that. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. You shouldn't be saying that as a main starting striker. You shouldn't be saying.
And this is why I've constantly said he's not someone that should be a leader at the club.
He's keeping it real though.
Like he's a senior player. I like Jesus, and I think he's a senior player, but he's not someone like emotionally. Like him and Zinchenko both are not like emotionally. You wouldn't rely them to be like in a leadership role. Like Declan Rice,
we know now.
Like you can say that completely. Like I could trust Declan Rice to lead us when we need to pick ourselves up. I can guarantee on that. Zinchenko and Jesus, great players. Let's not get it twisted. They're good players. They're very good players. But to have them in the leadership group, it's not something I would have for them. I think they need to be focusing on their game and trying to be part of that senior group that. Not in terms of shouty leadership, just like sort of do your job on the pitch. That's
just one moment, just before you go any further, guys. I just want to make sure everyone hits that like button, and I'm just going to show you guys. This is exactly what I was saying. I'm not going to play the audio, but of course you guys can see you can read exactly what he said. He says Jesus is like, because I think it's in Portuguese, so it doesn't make sense anyways to play. Gabriel Jesus says the moment that Arsenal lost the league last season was when William Saliba got injured. When we play, we concede a few goals, but he doesn't play. The numbers of conceding goals increases. So pretty straightforward.
But this is it. I think that is much more of a praise for William Saliba rather
100%.
than a diss on Rob Holding, guys. And yes, we know the difference is there, massive. But William Saliba is arguably one of the best centre-backs in the Premier League last season. And this is why he is touted by the best clubs. PSG, desperate to get him back. Real Madrid, I'm sure, would love him too. And that's where I don't mind Jesus being a part of that leadership group because of what he brings in experience. And also, Jesus and Zinchenko were monumental for us throughout that big main part of the season. And I think the reason why is because they've been given that responsibility now, and they've been given that privilege, that pressure to go and play week in, week out, which they never got at City. And also in that interview, he spoke about that there. He just wants to play. He's an emotional character. I do agree with you what you said there, Kieran. And so is Zinchenko, but they thrive off of having that. That's where they rise, I believe. And that's where, yes, we saw moments, as Brandon said, towards the end of the season with Zinchenko, where his form went up, he did curtail. I will agree when Walcott went past him. I also thought that was to do with the injuries as well, because we saw many games where he was dropping out, not playing. Oh, Zinchenko's not in this game. Then he missed the rest of the season towards the end. That's my only issue with Zinchenko. Is his injury?
No, just to clarify, it's just that.
Let me just say this. People, do me a favor. We have 206 of you guys in the chat. If you guys want to check out any of the other guys' content, we got Ball Over Passion, Brendan AFC, and Tyreek Talks' channels.
You've done it wrong again.
He's done it again.
I'm just going to do this. Anyways, and Curran's right here.
Yeah. Basically,
of course, if you guys want to check Gully out on TikTok, you can do that. Do me a favor. Like the video right now, guys. We have 206 of you, and it's not even on 100 likes yet. What are we doing? And also, there's a poll question. Answer the poll question. Have Arsenal bridged the gap to Manchester City yet? Yes or no? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. But continue. What were you going to say, Karan?
Yeah, just to bounce off what Tariq was saying is, I think they're on the pitch leaders. Like they're someone that, like in terms of how they perform, they lead by what they do on the pitch. I just don't think that there's someone that's like, I wouldn't depend on them in a huddle or like to do a team talk or something like this. I think they're leaders in their actions, not by their character. I think that there's a difference between guys that you can rely on as like your talismanic players that you can rely on to perform on the pitch, and social leaders that can, you know, galvanize a squad, draw people together, bring people up. I think that's the main thing.
There you go.
And one thing I'll just say as well, Man City,
Yeah.
Kevin De Bruyne is a part of that leadership group. He's not someone who's got, he says, let me
Yeah.
talk half the time.
Yeah.
And then you've got Gundogan as well, who doesn't really seem like that. But nah, I hate
No,
it.
but you know why Declan Rice is also so important? Granit Xhaka leaving, he kind of fills that leadership role. So
Yes, 100%.
I always understood why it was like Rice leaves, Xhaka comes in. I mean, Xhaka goes out at the moment Rice comes in. And then Thomas Partey leaves. I don't think they view Thomas Partey as a big part of the squad anymore. I really think they view him as a bit part bench player going into next season. And so a lot of the rivals who I speak to, they don't see Kai Havertz having a big role. But we all watch how Xhaka played last season. You're telling me Kai Havertz can't be in that attacking end doing what Xhaka did? Or are you guys still kind of worried about that? Because that is a big question mark over our midfield.
I mean, Xhaka said it himself at the beginning of this season. He said, Mikel said to him, you're going to be an attacking 8 or I'm going to have to sell you. We need an attacking, basically second striker for our team. And he then became that, and he did amazing this season. So, look, I think that there's definitely a role for Kai Havertz. I think there's, like, people are going to laugh at it, and I think there's, but people laughed at Jesus. Why are you getting Man City's striker they don't even play with a striker? Like, people laugh at the signings.
People laughed at Akanji.
Exactly. People laugh at signings, and then
about Jesus, though, we knew like at least what he was good at. Nobody knows what Havertz is good at. I don't think we've never seen him playing that number 8 role. In my opinion.
Bro,
he's not an 8. He's not going to be an 8.
At Leverkusen, one thing he was good at, he was always good at finding his way into the box, making late runs.
From number 10, though, not number 8.
No, but he's going to be in a similar position because the way that we played the 8 the way that we played the 8 last year, it was basically as Curran said,
second striker.
A second striker. Jesus would drift out one way, you'd have Xhaka drifting the other way. How many times did Xhaka receive the ball literally in the box where the striker would normally be? Or think about it, Zinchenko.
Yeah, but that's the role he was asked to play, though.
He's defensively aware as well. His awareness is way better than Havertz, in my opinion, defensively.
But the way we set up defensively, let's be honest, Martinelli helps out a lot defensively, and we're going to have a lot of cover overall. We're not going to necessarily always play with him in the biggest game.
I think that's the main point, though. I think that's the main point. I think what Havertz does is he gives us an option. I think we struggled at times when, for example, at Man City. Yeah, so basically we struggled in games at like Man City, these kind of the big, like the massive games. Like what Havertz does give you is he's a great big game player. So that's something that
Kieran, and you've just hit something there, and I'm sorry to cut you off there, bro, but you said Man City. Do you remember in the home game when he had the opportunity to take the shot and he stuttered, and there was other opportunities in that left half space, and we said, and we were screaming out as fans, if we had a more natural fit in that position, maybe we would have scored goals. And then, of course, that was when the game was finally in the balance. Absolutely 100% correct.
And I think Kai Havertz is a confidence player, to be honest. Similar to Anthony Martial. When these guys are performing well in a team that's functioning, you see the best out of them. When they're in a team that's dysfunctional, like Chelsea has been, any attacker that really goes into that team struggles. I don't think Nkunku's going to do so well next season there either. So really and truly, I'm looking at just the history of that club, and I'm saying to myself, players don't perform well over there.
Just to go back to Tariq's point about Havertz being in that role Xhaka was for that Man City game last season. I don't think anyone is disputing the fact that he will be better for us in the attacking phase than Xhaka was. But my issue with him is that I don't think he can do the Xhaka role in terms of ball retention, in terms of recycling the ball, picking up passes where Xhaka used to pick up from midfield. I don't think Havertz will be able to do any of those.
I mean, this is the thing.
Let me throw this scenario out there.
But the role's going to evolve.
Yeah, let me throw this scenario out there then.
But what happened?
Because I understand what you're saying about ball retention and all of that. There is one player within our squad that can do that, and that's Martin Odegaard. So is there a possibility that maybe we play Odegaard in the 8 and Kai Havertz in the 10? Kai Havertz can do that sort of link-up play, creating in the attacking phases, getting further forward. Okay, Odegaard's not that great defensively either, but he has everything else in his game that, you know, could potentially be the ace.
Potential game changer. Curran, how reliable is this guy?
He's, as you can see, he's a reporter that is very closely associated with Brighton. So I've just been sent this myself. So I think it's probably an opinion. So let's take it as an opinion. But the player has always said that it will either be he wants to play Champions League football. So, and with the amount of money that Chelsea are not willing to pay, I've said all along I think we do go back for him. But just to address the point that we were talking about Havertz, if we're just going to look at it simply, right? We are going to have three midfielders. I think we have one midfielder for each third of the pitch, if you want to put it that way. I think you're looking at the first third will be Rice, the second third will be Odegaard, someone that can retain and get the ball into the final third, and then Havertz will be that second striker, final third role in the midfield. And obviously you'll have people dropping to help each other or advancing to help the other. So there's definitely a way it works. I've always said, and I've said on this show just today, we need another midfielder. I think that we've got to,
Yeah, no, I was just because you mentioned this earlier on as well, Kieran. We have to be as fans, we have to be open for change as well. Because go a year ago this time, who would have seen how Arsenal would have set up going into that first game at Crystal Palace? Zinchenko being played in as that inverted, and Arsenal setting up in a 2-3, 3-2, mixing from time to time. And Kieran, this is where I thought what you said was interesting. You prefer Odegaard in that left eight. Who's to say? And Brandon kind of touched upon it here. Who's to say there's not a switch round there? Who's to say that Havertz doesn't end up start on that right centre mid and then you see Odegaard on the left? That's why Arteta is a madman in football terms, and we're going to have to just wait and see what happens.
Do you know why the left centre mid works better for? And I'll explain my reasoning. I think what it goes to Saka as well, because what Saka needs consistently is he needs to come inside more. He needs to be running from out, and he can't be just hugging the touchline. We need someone to go past him. It's been White this season and provide that overlap. What Kai has done in the past, if you look, I know we have to go back to Leverkusen because he's not been used right at Chelsea, so you never know, can he still do it? But what he did do very well is he was able to overlap, very able to underlap, provide the runs into the box or run past the winger to try and get the cross into the box or the cutbacks from the byline. So I think Kai would probably work better on the right because we need him or Emil both do that role very well, where Emil provides the overlap on the right, and he can also provide the link up with Saka. They have a very good relationship together in terms of just footballing wise. And then I think if you're looking at Martinelli, what Martinelli thrives off is running into the box and getting on the end of through balls, and that's what Martin excels at. So I've always thought that Odegaard would be better on the left, and Martinelli would be better. I mean, not Havertz or ESR would be better on the right. That's always been my preference.
Fair enough. Let me just ask everybody quickly. Right now, if you had to say Arsenal were going to go and have like a modest end to the window, sell some players and go and get a Lavia, or we go out and we do something spectacular, do you think there's still room to do something spectacular and go
100%.
get a Tchouameni? Because he's trending. Every day he's trending. I'm seeing this every day. Apparently, there's been bids to Real Madrid. Real Madrid are in talks with certain clubs about Tchouameni. Like, are we kind of overthinking this, or is it just this is the new world we live in now?
I just think that with Tchouameni for me is their only single pivot. He's their only six. Like if you look at all the midfielders, Fede, Camavinga, Bellingham now, Cruz, Modric, these guys are all eights. They're not really like we could play in a double pivot. Some of them, like Camavinga, for example.
But Curran, does it come down to trust though? And the reason why I say that, right, is because Camavinga was played like at left back, quite a lot for Real Madrid last season. So Carlo Ancelotti clearly trusts him to do a role within the team. Whereas as Tchouameni, although he played 43 games for Real Madrid last season, only 26 of them were starts. So that kind of tells me that the manager doesn't really fancy him, doesn't really trust him.
The manager
And
left.
that's why I feel like if
does
there's
that
going to be
not
a player
show?
there
But
move on, it'd be him.
To me, and this is my opinion, to me that shows that they're trying to keep Camavinga. That does show they're trying to keep Camavinga. But if you're going to try and sign this guy and then sign two guys that play in the position he wants to play in, I think for me that shows less, not as much faith as you would. Say they for example they signed Rice, for example, that would push Tchouameni out. They didn't, obviously we signed Rice, but they if they signed Rice, that would say, okay, we're signing a lone six. That shows that's the priority for this window. They've signed Bellingham and Arda Güler, who both can play right centre midfield, which is what Camavinga wants to play.
But this is where Brandon's got a point when he says that, because remember the big games against Manchester City? It was Toni Kroos playing in that, auxiliary 6 position. And you said it right there. He's not that profile. He's not someone that's going to be your ball destroyer, breaking up play in that sense. And that showed a lack of trust in Tchouameni from Carlo Ancelotti. And that, I think that is quite, if you're someone like Tchouameni, and I totally agree with you when you said he's the only one of that style and that profile, but he says, no, I wanted to start cruising those ones. And they've just offered Kroos another contract. So unless, once again, they've got a shift in change where Kroos is going to be used as a bit part player next season, and then Tchouameni breaks through in that sense. This is why I think this transfer is going to be one that if we do get him, it will be dependent on other things falling in place.
I think the Rice transfer has opened up everyone's eyes to what kind of power we have in our financial situation.
Of course. And this is why I said it was the biggest transfer we could make, is because we've never made £100 million transfer and secured someone that of this caliber that Man City wanted, that Bayern wanted. We beat everyone off and we got our man. But the thing is, and the other thing I wanted to say quickly is,
big up to you. I think everyone here can agree that we were waiting for that preseason, and we, oh man, it's going to be amazing. Honestly, it's going to be amazing. I can't wait for the preseason, and I fully agree with you. He says he can't wait for the preseason to see what he tries. Arteta is definitely going to experiment. But before you go, Karan, Gully, you watch a lot of La Liga. Tell me, Real Madrid, do you think it's realistic?
I don't think we get Tchouameni. The new manager just said as well, Ancelotti's left. I know it's a rumor, but in my opinion, I don't think we can get Tchouameni, mainly because of the money they spent on him. They spent too much money on him for him to leave first season after just spending one season at Real Madrid. They're not the type of club to just bin someone off without actually trying to implement them into the style. And with the new manager coming in, who knows? He might actually be a star in number 6. Kroos and Modric. Kroos has already said, I don't think he wants to continue playing football for more than 2 years, in my opinion. He's not going to be here in the next 2 years. And Tchouameni could be a big, big part of Real Madrid for the future. And he's got the talent for it. We've seen it in France when he plays for France. We've seen a couple of times for Real Madrid, but Ancelotti has not trusted him enough. And we know if a real manager does come to Real Madrid, Ancelotti's not the type of manager you expect to coach players single-handedly. He's the type of manager that just lets players do what they want. But if he can get a manager, if Real Madrid get a manager that can coach Tchouameni to be disciplined in that position, because I think that's the only thing he's lacking. He's not disciplined enough to stick as a number 6. And with age, that obviously comes. But I don't think he leaves, in my opinion.
Okay,
current, I think.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. Basically, I think I'm just going to agree with Gully there. I think that if there's one that is more there's going to be one between Fede or Camavinga. One of those two, I think, is going to be pushed out.
Okay, and this is the most unrealistic out of all of them. But do you guys just laugh when you see this, or I believe like?
Can I just say one thing? Can I say one thing though?
Yeah.
If there is one thing that this transfer does, is it frees up a player from Real Madrid because they need the funds. This is going to be a £200 million or €200 million transfer, and if to get that plus Jude Bellingham, who's another £100 million signing, they're going to need to sell someone. And this is why I'm saying Camavinga or Tchouameni, one of these guys. My personal opinion is Camavinga, but this is my thing. I think that you're going to have to sell someone. It just doesn't work like that.
Valverde, I would say.
Valverde is another one. I think Man City could be interested in him.
Arteta loves him as well.
I think now
So
Arteta
if
would.
we bought Valverde, he'll make Kai Havertz not useful. Like
Klopp wants him. Not forget about Arsenal. I think Klopp, he's going to go to Liverpool more.
Well, Valverde.
More suited to Liverpool, yeah, in my opinion.
bro, Liverpool don't have money, bro.
They just spent 70 million on us.
Yeah, no, but my thing is I genuinely think if there's one team that Fede would kind of work with, it's low-key United. If you think about it, like he kind of would fix a lot of the problems that they're having in terms of midfield.
Did you play him in the midfield or on the right?
Yeah. I like playing midfield.
He'll end up on the right somehow.
He'll end up on the right. I know, but the point is, it will give, for example, Anthony an overlap. It'll make him come inside more, which they need because he's just useless just on his own doing that stupid spin again and again. You need him inside a bit more, and I just think that
Uncle T is the source. Oh man, you guys are funny. Terrence Tibbs in the building. Big up Terrence Tibbs. Okay, so now we've reached the point of the show where we got to talk about our expectations. I know it's tough without knowing the landscape, so I'm just going to give you guys this. Going into the season, with what we've done so far, what would you expect from this group of players and this obviously this squad, the manager and everything else going to the thing? And that's everyone. That's your own expectations. No one has to push these on anybody else. So for me, just to lay it out for you guys, I would expect us to at least go and try to win a cup, one of the cups, domestic cups. In addition to that, I would say anywhere between round of 16 quarterfinals of the Champions League is realistic expectations for me. And I'm trying to push for that league title. And I think we should take Manchester City at least minimum to the end of the season. We need to go aim for 90 points. Last season, we got close to 90 points. This season, we need to get over that hill. I think we're only 4 points off 90. So get those extra 2 wins. That's 92 points. Hopefully that's enough to win us the league. But yeah, that's for me. What are you saying, Karan?
I mean, for me, I think 90 points is a great target to have. I think the main thing for me is we need a trophy of some sort, whether it be, I don't care if it's the FA Cup, if it's the title, whatever we need a trophy. We need a proper trophy. And we need to basically pick up from where we were this season. We want a good European challenge. We want a good title race, if not take it to the last couple of games. I think that is fairly realistic. I don't think that's overly ambitious. I don't think that's under ambitious. Personally, and I've said this since 2021, I think this is the year we win the league. I've said it since my pinned tweet. You can go and look at it now. I've said it since 2021 that 2024 was the year we'd win the title. I said last year was the year we'd challenge and then injuries would dismay us. And I said the year before we'd be close, if not get top 4. So I've got receipts on this. I think that we will win the title this year. I hope we get another midfielder, and that would, for me, cement it. I think that's the main thing we need right now. I agree that I think if we're going to establish European domination, we're going to need that 9 that will get us goals in specific knockout games, an Osimhen, an Evan Ferguson, maybe, if you want to go down that route, someone like that. But right now, to secure that domestic domination, we need to be able to put teams under pressure for 90 minutes consistently every game. So yeah, that's the expectations right now.
Boom. Brandon, what are you saying? What's your expectations?
The quadruple. That's what I want. No, I'm joking. We ain't doing no quadruple. Mine's very similar to yours, Egal. I want Arsenal to compete for the league title again this season, but this time get more points than last season. Basically take it to the wire. You can't sit there and say, if Arsenal don't win the league, then you sack Mikel Arteta, because at the end of the day, you're up against a juggernaut of a team in Manchester City. So I expect us to compete and get closer to Manchester City. I expect us to reach the last 8 in the Champions League. And I am expecting us to win a FA Cup or a League Cup, either or, a domestic cup. But I expect a trophy this season. If any of them other things happen and we do not end up holding silverware at the end of the season, then it is a failure in my eyes. We have to win a trophy. That is the key to everything.
Fair enough. What about yourself, Gully?
I agree with most of what you guys said in terms of silverware and more or less competing for the Premier League title. I don't think it will take 90 points to win the league next season. I think Man City will improve. I think Haaland is going to go to another level next year that we haven't seen yet. But I think I've seen some people say Champions League and this and that. That's very unrealistic in my opinion. Just don't get humiliated in Europe like you always do, and I'm happy with that. If you get in the round of 16 or whatever it might be, just don't get humiliated the way you have in the past. At least set some good steps so we can actually take it from there the season after next season. But in terms of what I expect the season, I say FA Cup and take the Premier League title to the end of the season. Literally the last day or last couple of games at least. Don't crumble the way you did this season.
Fair enough. And Tyreek, what are you saying?
Brandon said winning the quadruple, right? And he said it as a joke. But I genuinely think Arteta and the players will be going into this season trying to win every trophy possible. And then we'll see what ends up. But the minimum expectation is to win a trophy and to challenge for the league. And Gully, you mentioned also about the Champions League too. It is unrealistic to say winning it because when you get to those, semi-finals and final stages, you do come up against teams that are more experienced. But who was to say Inter Milan would make it to the final last year? And Inter Milan were not even the best team in their league by far. And that's in a Serie A. So I do think the Champions League is based upon draws and who you get and the luck of the draw in that sense. So it's hard to put an expectation on that. So yeah, I think more into the knockout rounds is when you can say how far you can go. But I do want to challenge in that. I want us to take a big scalp, but definitely challenge in the league. And if we don't win the league, then we need to pick up one of the domestic trophies for sure. But the players, guys, don't knock them. They will be thinking they want to compete for all and want to win all. But
it will be good to see Arteta as well in knockout competition because we haven't seen much of him. I think, like you said, Inter Milan as well. You mentioned Inter Milan. I think Inzaghi is made for knockout competitions. He reached the final of the Coppa Italia, wherever it might be as well. I think he reached the semi-final, like you said yourself. But
I think he's won something stupid, like 7 out of 9 knockout games or something like that.
Yeah, genuinely, he's set up his team perfectly for knockout competition. And Arteta, we're going to see more or less how good he is in knockout competitions because we haven't seen much of it. We've seen in the FA Cup when he won it for us, of course, in lockdown. But I think it'll be good to see in the Champions League and how he does against big teams.
Yeah, it's different. That FA Cup's different because it's 100%. Not the same squad as what it is now. So,
no, 100%.
Yeah, I think Arteta's got a lot of pressure on him, no doubt about it. Because one thing that has been extremely poor since he has been here is our ability to compete on multiple fronts in multiple competitions. So I kind of feel like that's why the added pressure is there this season now to make sure he competes in all competitions. But yeah, I'd say it's quite realistic to compete for the league title. We have to expect that as Arsenal fans. If we compete for a league title last season and then we end up finishing 3rd or 4th this season, it's just simply not good enough. We can't be doing that. We have to make gradual progress, and that's why for me, compete for the league, win a trophy. Winning a trophy, is the main thing. It's the aim of elite sport at the end of the day.
Yeah. And last year, if we were this close to Man City, how close do you think we are now?
It depends on the business. They've just signed Gvardiol. Like it's just been here we go. So
oh really?
Yeah. So we'll see what happens when the squads assemble. I think that's not something we can. I think constantly looking at the squads and looking at how they evolve. We're not on the first day of the season when we look at it. We'll see if we're underprepared or prepared correctly.
But what I think, Egal, when you do ask that question, I think we do need to bridge that gap, not just necessarily because we've improved, but Manchester City, as you've mentioned, they got Haaland. He's settled now. He'll have a big season next season. But losing a player like Gundogan, potentially Mahrez, potentially Bernardo Silva, those are key players. Not just what they bring on the pitch, guys, but off the pitch. We know Gundogan. Us and Liverpool fans know that he's the one that drags them to the titles in the end. And I do think that this could be their transition season where Liverpool capitalized on that and then they blew the league. Guys, we need to think Manchester City although how great they are, they have gone through transitions before.
The thing is,
and in that season, they lost a company. That was what the big company didn't even play that many games the season prior.
Don't forget, we have experience now in the title race. Also.
No, but the thing is, and this is another thing that's very crucial. We have to start quick. I think every season you see that Pep sometimes they don't start very well. They get into it. They go, as we've seen this season, they kind of go up and up as the levels rise, because Pep figures out what he needs to do to get the team at that elite level. So we start quick. We have to start well, and then we'll see where we're at the December, the December winter break.
I have to agree with Tariq. I've said this before. I think we'll see Man City go through a little bit of a transition. Do you know what I mean? Because like you bring up a great point about Gundogan and Bernardo Silva. It wasn't Haaland stepping up at the end of the season. Haaland went missing for about 5 games at the end of the season. It was Gundogan and Bernardo Silva and players like that were, winning them these trophies, winning them the treble, coming up with big goals in important moments. They're going to be a big miss for Manchester City, no doubt about it. So we can capitalise on that. But as Curran said, that provides or depends on us making a decent start to the season and continuing on into the second half of the season as well.
But the main thing is, and this is something that I said on Hassam's show with both of you guys, Brandon and Egal, pressure is eternal in football. There's always going to be pressure, unless you're Pep. There's literally even Klopp was under pressure last season. Like pressure is always there's always no. But the thing,
pressure makes diamonds.
No, but the thing is, I think we're underestimating how much pressure there's been on this guy for the past 3 years. There's been like there were times when we literally half the fan base was just not feeling it at all. They wanted him out heavily. So I think pressure is not exactly new to Mikel. I think I would rather the pressure of a league title than fighting for your job every week. And that's what we're looking at now. So look, it's going to have to get to the point where you think we need to start winning stuff now at some point. And this is the time now. The pressure is there, but the pressure is good because we're at a level where the pressure isn't, can we, be acceptably good in this league? We're looking at pressure to win titles. And that's so much, I'd prefer that every day of the week. So pressure is eternal, but you've got a manager that now has dealt with it for 3 years and is going to have to show now that he's able to cope with it at the most crucial points.
Not just a manager, the team.
And the team as well. Yeah, of course.
When did they give the here you go for Gavardio? I don't see it, but you know what? It's all right. Let's get this show wrapped up, guys. Everyone, I'll start with you, Curran. You have anything to shout out before we go?
Yeah, you can follow me at CurranBAP on Twitter. You can follow the YouTube at Ball of a Passion. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
There you go. And what about yourself, Gully? What are you saying?
No, nothing really. Just appreciate you having me on. That's about it, to be fair.
And he's a modest guy. Check him out, AFC Gully on Twitter, TikTok also. Big up to you, bro. And then we got Brendan. What are you saying, Brendan?
Yeah, appreciate you inviting us on, Egal. So big up to yourself for that and all the boys that are on the panel as well. You can find me on Twitter, Brandon AFC96. Go and follow me on there. And also my YouTube channel, which is True Gunners TV. Head over and subscribe if you like.
Boom. And of course, Tyreek, how you feeling? What you saying?
Man, I'm good. Now, thank you for inviting me on, and it was great chopping it up with you guys, man. And guys in the chat, it was great checking your comments out too. Drop a like for Egal whilst we're out here, people. But you can check me out at Tariq Talks on Twitter, on YouTube, Tariq Talks. Just spelling in that way. You probably won't really find anyone else with that spelling. But yeah, really appreciate it.
Everyone's links to their channels are in the comment section, their YouTube channels, and I'll even try to put Gully's TikTok in there too. But yeah, you guys have yourselves a wonderful day. Big up. This has been the debate show, panel show, whatever you want to call it. Hopefully the next time we have another signing to the door. Declan Rice is officially announced, and maybe the Tchouameni links come to fruition, or Camavinga for your sake, Curran, because you want Camavinga. Have a good one. I'm out of here, people. Peace. Don't know.
Hey, guys.
Next one.